having a hobby that you can turn into an income stream, even if it's a modest income stream. I
Right.
mean, $500 a month or $1,500 a month can
Yeah,
really change somebody's life and
it
future.
can. Yep, it can. And I think as women too, again, we tend to downplay or not really take ourselves seriously as much because we're like, oh, yeah, I make kids clothes or something, or I make kids Halloween costumes. Well, why aren't we selling those on Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or and we don't price ourselves well either as when we're doing things for ourselves. Like it can't I was noticing your candle behind you. It's like, there's a gal in town who makes gorgeous and they're soy candles, right? And she wanted to, I go, you're not pricing these right. You're probably barely breaking even if you are at
Mm.
all. And she was like, how did you know? And it was like,
What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
Welcome to Vivatude. This is Kate Phillips. I am your Vivatude host for all things purpose and prosperity. We are here exploring financial and occupational wellness. And my special guest, Lisa Brumm, she has really so much to share with our audience, which is mostly, 40 plus, 50 plus women who are oftentimes in that sandwich generation. We're supporting loved ones and parents who are aging, and sometimes our own finances tend to suffer. Lisa Brumm has been diving into the world of finance, making waves in Portland, Oregon's financial scene since '97. She is a trailblazer. She's recognized by US News and Money for 9 consecutive years as one of Portland's top 100 financial professionals. She's been a prominent figure on Coin's TV's Women Crush Wednesday segment. She's been a popular contributor on Channel 2, and she's known for her honest and candid discussions around women and money. She is also her company, My Financial Girlfriend. I met Lisa, I say we fell in love over a picnic table. We were at Camp Yes that our friend Marley Williams had put on. And, there's financial professionals who are just all about, we're going to sell you some mutual funds and show you the charts and the graphs. And Lisa is not that. She is an educator and just a passionate advocate for women. I think that is the word that describes her best. And I'm thrilled to have her here as a guest on Vivatude. Welcome, Lisa Brumm.
thank you, Kate. I am so excited to be here. I really appreciate this time.
Yes, Lisa's also been a guest faculty of mine for Wealth School for Women. And I love her can-do attitude. The statistics are a little scary if you are a caregiver, and that might be also an interesting angle for us to explore today, because I know that you've got an interesting life situation and with caregiving yourself.
Yeah.
The statistics say that sometimes they are not accepting promotions, or they are even taking time off from work, and they are sometimes coming out of pocket. The average caregiver is spending more than $7,000 out of pocket. So we see that caregiving provides women with these big challenges, and I would love to have you address that. What can we do?
Yeah. Well, I will say that one of the things that I feel, especially working with that age group or older women, is that they usually come to me and they, like very depressed or out of desperation. It's like I'm at my wit's end. I used up all my resources. My retirement is gone, whatever, and I have to go back to work, or I have to do, something, because what happens is that we just feel deflated and completely end of the road. There's no other hope or way to get around things. And what I can do with a fresh perspective is cheer them up a little bit and just give them some hope and show them that all is not lost. Because a lot of times what we think about our money is not really the exit doors that the IRS has given us, and nobody really tells us the information up front. Nobody tells us that we can borrow from our 401k instead of deplete it and just zero it down to nothing. There's options. There's lots of different, I always say the IRS codes were written for business owners. So, I've worked with thousands of women who maybe have a small, they quilt, or they make handcrafts and they sell it at their kids, holiday fairs, or they go to, farmers markets and make their pumpkin pie recipes, and all of that, any of that. I had a woman who actually was a TriMet bus driver, and her biggest goal in her life, she was 55, and her biggest goal was to buy a home. She lived as an apartment dweller her entire life, and it was just a dream of hers to not live, to some point buy a home for herself. And she had an old 401k. She was a nanny. She nannied for me and my best friend on different vacations and things. And she came to me and she's in desperation. Do I need to, I have the $60,000 old 401k. Do I cash it out so I have, money to put as a down payment? And I'm like, listen, do you still do the nanny neighborhood thing? Let parents that you live next to, go to the date night and you watch the kids? She goes, yeah. I go, I know it's side money and it's not probably money you claim, but if you're willing to claim it this year and start keeping track of all the diapers you buy and the Cheerios and the videotapes to keep them entertained, or games or whatever, let's turn it into a small business. You'll claim the income for this tax year. We'll take the 60,000 and do a rollover to a 401k solo plan. And now you can borrow tax-free $30,000, and there's your down payment. And then you pay yourself back, including your house payment. So we had to calculate what her house payment would be and how much she'd have to pay that 30,000 back over 30 years, because it's like a home equity loan to yourself, and you're paying your own interest to your own account. So it's completely untaxable. It doesn't get reported to the IRS as long as you pay it back. And she was just elated, and now has a 2-bedroom home out in Troutdale off I-84. And she's just, that was something that she never even thought could be possible with just what she felt was meager ability to get anywhere ahead in life.
I love that. When I'm in a conversation with someone, I don't give financial advice. I
Right,
do
right.
financial education.
Yes,
And I've helped people start investing, and in wealth school we talked about like all the different asset classes. Like I want to kind of give people like hooks to hang things on, and then
exactly.
you
Yeah.
you start knowing what questions to ask. But when somebody does need financial advice, I'm always saying, well, you know, it sounds like you need like a creative thinker, a creative solution. You should definitely talk to Lisa Brumm. As I love your whole approach. You're not only you will take these solutions like a magician, out of the rabbit's hat. Like, oh, you can do this and things that I've never heard of before.
Right,
Like
right.
all of the tricks and things. And I also just I want to talk for a moment about money and shame,
Mm,
because it's not just the strategic solutions that I value, but it's also how is it that we approach money? You mentioned that women will show up depressed, and then
yeah.
you're the financial cheerleader, and then they don't feel so depressed and they
Yeah.
realize there's something they can do. But talk to me about women and money and shame, and what can we do to shift that?
It's really so ingrained. I mean, think about, media, social media especially, but we just we as a whole, women as a whole and marginalized communities tend to get the short end of any money stick. Like you're talking about wages, we usually make less than our counterparts. You talk about how much goes into our retirement, which is a percentage of our income. Again, short end of the money stick. If somebody at the same job and is making more money and then you are, and it's a percentage is going in as you're matching, guess who's going to have more money because they make a little bit more money than you do. So, and your Social Security right now is a calculation on your past three most highest income earning years, is how they come up with your calculation for your Social Security benefit. So, again, if we're
Yeah.
making lower money and you mentioned it being women that are being caretakers, and you take 3 to 4 years out of the workforce so that you can care for your aging parents or your disabled children, you've got no money to show for. So those are years out of the calculation. So I come at it from an approach of, my best one is that I don't cook. My husband and I have been together almost 40 years, and I mean, he's now a master cook, but he came to my apartment one day. He's a big football player from Portland State. He opened it and he saw Kraft mac and cheese, and he's like, "Nope," because I can't survive on that. So he just took over that role immediately and was making fabulous meals. But what I say is that I don't feel shameful or embarrassed when I say I can't. I mean, I can cook for myself. I can make myself a sandwich or I can put some pizza in an oven. I'm not completely inept. But it's like I can't feel embarrassed when somebody asks me, "Hey, you want to you get to pick and choose and cook Thanksgiving dinner this year." I would just laugh because I have no idea how everything that's hot gets to the table at the right time and everything that's cold is all ready to go. And that is just not information that will go into this brain. So I laugh and I'll go, "I'll be a sous chef if you want me to cut or chop or mix. I'm all there for you." But I am not the superior person to be in charge of a kitchen when it comes to making a decent meal. So I take that analogy and I go, "Listen, have you ever been taught what your 401k should be doing? Have you ever been taught how you to budget and actually have more money than the month is before, can you do that?" Is these are things that are knowledge that we just have never, and societally, culturally, have never been taught money. We're taught to be good kids and don't talk up too much. And, but you know what? Innately, as women, we know to go to the back of the store and look at the clearance racks first with the 10% or 20% off. And then you go up to the register and you show them your AAA card and you get another 10% off, right? So we know how to stretch dollars. We know how to, going back to the meal prep, if you are the main cook in your family, you know how to turn a pound of hamburger into a couple meals that will feed your family, right? We
Yes.
innately already know how to sniff out good deals. We're just not really realizing that we can turn that information to our benefit instead of just kind of getting by.
Yes, yes. And I know that you take an educational approach as well, where rather than just a salesperson, like, here's a product you should buy, and you hope they don't ask too many questions. Like, you're always peeling back, like, here's what you ought to know, here's what
Exactly.
your advisor might not have told you. And so what is some of that hidden secret knowledge,
Yeah.
2 or 3 things that you just want every woman to know, or questions that she should be asking?
I really want to create confidence. I want them to feel that they can ask, that asking questions is perfectly fine. In fact, if you need questions, call me and I'll give you the questions to go ask the broker. Because the thing I know, because I was in that world for 17 years before I started my financial girlfriend, I know what is talked about in the back rooms about what they're avoiding and how they don't, like how they see them as obstacles, selling obstacles when a client asks them what their fees are or how they're going to be
Mm,
charged or what are the internalized fees that aren't disclosed on a statement or anywhere in the paperwork unless you're reading on page 182 of a prospectus, right? So I know because I was in that world for so long, I know it's so much easier to talk about everything that they don't want to know because now you're the person who's like shining light on all the information that we should know and have the information before we open up an account or sign off on something. So I love it when I tell my client, because I really do work more as a consultant. And
yes, yes.
so I show the pros and the cons. I'll show them, they'll give me a statement of an investment they've had for years and years with any broker dealer, and we will splice it out together and I will show them where all those hidden fees are. Did you know you're paying both a broker fee and a mutual fund fee? There's an annual fee and an upfront commission. I mean, there's all these, there's 5 ways that brokers get paid. And in those days when I was there, most of them figured out how to get at least 3 to 4 ways get paid on the same transaction with those 5 fees. So I
Wow.
just think that that's probably one of the biggest is just ask questions and don't feel dismayed and don't feel like you're being, no, once you feel like you're being, pat down and go away, little girl kind of information, there's many of other brokers that are conscious
Yeah.
and very forward thinking and very innovative, and they do want to sincerely have longevity with their clients. That's what I went from banking when I basically came into financial world as a banker. And I worked my way up from helping people balance their checkbooks to opening accounts and
Yes.
mortgages and then becoming management. And my goal every day was just put somebody into a good mood. They'd come in and go, I got charged this fee. And okay, let's reverse it and let's figure out how we got there so that doesn't happen again. Because I can keep reversing the fee, but I think you'd want to feel more complete if we actually figured out why you got to that spot, right? And so I
Mhm,
always wanted to
mhm.
do the why behind the answer because then it's like teaching someone to fish rather than just giving them a fish, right? So I've always had that
Yes.
mentality. I've done that with my kids. I've done that with even with my husband. He kind of like I turn over all the cooking responsibilities. He turns over all the money stuff. And he retired when he was 58 years old from working at 32 years at the state. So he's now 61, 62, I think he's going to be. And he's doing his own finance. He has his own LLC. He's making hand forged knives because
Yeah.
of some of the tricks that we turned into turning his hobby into actually a viable small business. And he's just having a hell of a time trying to, figure out how to sell them. But he's
Oh,
doing, I mean,
I love that topic. Oh, we're gonna visit that topic later in this conversation around
so I think
because I
women,
think that's
yeah,
another, when we're caregiving and maybe that 40-hour per work, per
yeah,
week job and commute doesn't fit into our lifestyle anymore, then it is time to get creative. Actually, when my father came to live with me for over 3 years, and at that point in time, I was already a business owner. I was building, what I guess that was my first my first attempt at building total wealth. I had more than one run at it, because I learned pretty quickly. It's like I was out networking and doing workshops, and all of the sudden I had to keep my dad out of trouble. I had a teenager in the house too, but I learned very soon he was way more trouble than my teenager was, and I had to stay home. And that's how I ended up getting into I essentially transitioned from being a financial coach into being a financial and marketing writer because
right.
I could stay home and work on my own schedule and
Yeah,
keep my dad out of trouble.
yeah,
Uh, but having a hobby that you can turn into an income stream, even if it's a modest income stream. I
right.
mean, $500 a month or $1,500 a month can
Yeah.
really change somebody's life and
It
future.
can. Yep. It can. And I think as women too, again, we tend to downplay or not really take ourselves seriously as much because we're like, oh, yeah, I make kids clothes or something, or I make kids Halloween costumes. Well, why aren't we selling those on Facebook Marketplace or Etsy? Or why aren't you taking those to the Halloween parties and you next year you can make all the Buzz Lightyears you want to, right? So it's like we just and we don't price ourselves well either, as when we're doing things for ourselves. Like it can't. I was noticing your candle behind you. It's like there's a gal in town who makes gorgeous, and they're soy candles, right? And she wanted to. I go, you're not pricing these right. You're probably barely breaking even if you are at
Mm.
all. And she was like, how did you know? And I was like, okay, let's get into this. And I'm like, yeah, because we just so we undervalue sometimes the things that we can produce and the things that we can do to actually help our bottom lines, how we can put more money into useful practice into our own lives. I mean, most people who are self-employed, even if they're doing something on the side, they're improving their household finances and they can put more money aside for retirement and reduce their taxable income. Again, these are just all connected points that nobody's really given them the benefit of understanding the steps to get through those those pieces that are kind of like, oh, that's a lot of information I don't want to have to know, rather than let's dig into it and make it personal
Yeah.
and customize it to how it's going to work in your life. One of the first things I try to ask people is, if you were to come up with a magical wish list of things that you want in your life right now, what does that look like? No money, no,
Mm.
no money bar, no, think about the actual dollar cost, like, do you want trips? I love, I mean, to me, it would be travel is my top. Like, truly work because we want to travel. Like, I like, yes, I like,
Yes,
and my
you're
husband just says,
always
yeah,
going somewhere fabulous.
oh, we can go on a cruise to Greece and Turkey in 2 weeks. What? Oh my God, you're right. We can. Let's do it. So, like, it's just funny how we kind of like downplay our own ability to use our money in ways that really bring us joy and make us happy. And when we're happy, then our communities are happier and our families are more growing happy and healthy. And so there's just a lot of influence that women have, I believe, also with kindness and acts of money.
Yes. And I love, what you say that one of the reasons you work is so that you can keep traveling.
Yeah.
There's a conversation I have around, I call it the new retirement paradigm.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people are retiring too soon. And I don't mean like stay at the job you don't like, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's time to quit the commute, quit the career, quit the corporate politics and all that stuff. But then
Right.
when we find something, when we can keep finding a way to contribute and not just, we've all heard of lifelong learning. I've now realized it's like lifelong learning and lifelong earning. Like, how can
Right.
we bring those things to
Love
the
that.
table where maybe we've taken our social security or we've taken our pension and we're sort of quote unquote retired, but we still are contributing and still receiving money through, whether it's a side gig, whether it's a business, whether it's something we do part time.
Yep.
um, I love that whole conversation. We are probably, most of us are familiar with the FIRE definition of
Yes.
financial independence, retire
Retire early.
early. I'm one of those people who I think it's too late for me to retire early. Like that really wasn't on that train, but I saw a new definition in a Reddit thread that I just love of financial independence recreationally employed. And there was this huge thread of people just sharing all the things that they were doing. Like, I was an engineer and now I'm running an espresso stand. It's just, I did this and now I'm working at a bookstore, and people who they keep contributing, and it gives them a, a way to stay connected in their communities, gives them a reason to wake up. And
Yes.
so I think that retirement shouldn't be an event. I think it should be a process.
Yeah. Yeah, it is and I truly believe it's a process because of all the thousands of people I've helped retire. It's
Hmm.
usually, I mean, one of the biggest I've had one guy who retired like 9 times because he just gets bored, right? And he's like, I can
Yeah.
sit there and watch TV all day, or I can go do something and be purposeful. And so, he was called back to his executive position like at 3 of those 9 times. And then he found like there has to be a purpose. We do get bored. Like the first 6 weeks of being retired is great because it's a long vacation that you deserve, right? Because you put
The
in the hard work.
honeymoon phase.
Yeah, but then you go, tiki, what am I, my kitchen can only be so clean, and my dog gets walked, 3 times a day instead of two, and like it's without purpose that gives us we as humans need that drive. We need something to feel and fulfill others, or that's why volunteering is a good thing, but it can lead to other areas where they actually start a nonprofit or they want to help community with organizing something more efficiently or whatever. So I think retirement, I have a couple right now that they're technically retired, but she loves going to, well, she got invited to particular college football game with her brother, but she brought everything for the tailgate. I mean, they had like the best nachos, the best hot dogs, they had the grills, they had like she was cooking up for a family of like 5 people around this tailgate. And she now has a food cart because it's just phenomenal food. And
I
she
love it.
drives it to these college games, and she's helping them do the tailgate that they don't want to do, for half the cost or whatever. So it's like she just like, and she's got personality like crazy. So it just fits her style. She loves feeding people. She loves the smile on their faces. She knows she's giving them
Mhm.
quality stuff, not junk food. And I just giddy. I'm giddy with when I see people kind of just spark up and they just
Yeah,
see that
yeah.
new life and that new thread of enjoyment. It to me, that's really what when you help people retire, it's like, yeah, here's the numbers, but what are you gonna do? What do you really want to do? What is gonna make you happy?
Exactly. How do you live a purposeful life? And I think, yeah, when the full-time job gets eliminated, we can just expand our options of what that means. We're going to be back for another couple of segments. We're going to take a break here at Vivatude. I'm here with Lisa Brumm, and when we come back, I'm going to ask Lisa about her own adventures in caregiving. We'll be right back with Vivatude.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, 1 each week. We help you revivitude your next chapter because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.